And welcome back to Tunnel Throat Revisited, episode number 2. So, last time we talked about theory and philosophy about tunnel throat. This time it is more practical. So, a little disclaimer before we start is if you cannot find your false chords, vestibular folds, ventricular folds, then do not attempt this by yourself. If you can already activate them safely without any pain or any discomfort, then go with me and follow, and we will find out how to do tunnel throat today. However, if you cannot, then please seek help either from myself or a colleague who specializes in false chord vibration and distortion. The first thing that is super important to talk about before we start is, of course, can you do throat singing? Anything that comes down to the false chords, the false folds, whatever name you have for them, it always comes down to it would be smart to learn throat singing. It doesn't matter if it's Kume, Kajara, whatever style it is. A little bit less the Inuit version, but however, even that would help, and then you can get closer to the other ones afterwards. So the reason is that I don't want you to throw too much in the dark, and that's why throat singing is so smart. And as I mentioned before, it shouldn't hurt, feel uncomfortable, make you hoarse, make your voice darker, or anything like that when you are using your false chords. If you fall into this category, then please find a professional voice teacher and start your lessons. In this episode, we will be talking about the original tunnel throat, and then we will keep on evolving into more interesting ways to use tunnel throat. Number 1, the tongue shape. We will take our tongue out and gently close our mouth and teeth on top. Now you can feel your tongue and your upper lip suddenly touch. So you're then going to focus on those sides and slowly move them in and follow the lip, upper lip basically, right? If it's hard to do. Some people can, of course, instantly just go, that's good. But if you cannot, then please consider just following the upper lip until you can make this little cute tunnel or straw shape. Then we move it back into our mouth, and now it changes a little bit. So what will happen is that the tip of your tongue either is going to touch the bottom part of your teeth, where your teeth and gum are meeting, and the sides will lift up. So it will not be too much of this shape anymore. Even though you could make a sound from there, which I don't see many people do, so go for it. But otherwise, we take that shape, we bring it in, and then it will make this more pipe, like a half pipe type of a shape. And then depending on where you place your tongue, you will get a little bit of a different sound. Either, as I said, between the teeth and the gum, or even further down. That's the difference. So that's where we start. As soon as we can do this, now we start talking from this position, because I know there's a lot of distortion when we use this specific technique. However, I think that we should still have somewhat of a word in there, if it's not just for a heavy breakdown or something likewise. So we place our tongue and we start trying to say words. So for example,
Hi, my name is Soren. I am the head teacher at RMS Vocal Institute.
So yeah, there are of course sounds that suddenly gets killed and vowels, consonants that might be harder to do. However, it is just to get more familiarized with this, so you do not start tensing up different regions that we do not want to tense up too much, if any at all. So
Hi, we just start having fun like this.
try not to squeeze your teeth out with the tip of your tongue, but still keeping your tongue quite stable in this position while we are moving around and saying words. When this is more comfortable, let's slowly turn on throat singing with this specific position.
So, hi.
And as you can see, I'm slowly opening my mouth more to get more used to the pressure differences that will occur when we are doing words and so on. So now it's not just being able to speak, but also adding the false chords on top, and we suddenly have a pressure level that needs to be very stable when we're doing it. So again, and you can push your jaw a little bit forward, you can open more wide, less wide. There are so many different options here, so I wouldn't be like, oh, don't do this, don't do that. But try not to do too much like sidewise or anything to begin with. Just slowly get used to opening your mouth and maybe moving your jaw forward and backwards a little bit, if anything. And just to get a feel of how it will be when we are activating the false chords and also making these shapes in the tunnel throat style. And the next part is going from throat singing into the actual distorted effect. If you do not know how to project your voice, then please seek help, because this can be a little bit tricky and fully understanding how that works. Okay? Cool. So let's try. Find a spot that you like the sound of, approximately, where you're like, I like this sound. So if it's or if it's or whatever, that's where you start. Okay? So don't feel like it has to sound like mine. It has to know where you find it nice and comfortable in the oral shape that you're creating. Okay? So and there you have it. Depending on what you want, move your jaw forwards, backwards, up and down. So, and depending on what you like, move around, play around with it. So, for example, so you can hear there is a possibility of opening up the tone a little bit as well. So you're just changing how the oral cavity shape is combined with this fancy shape of the tongue. So yeah, it's not really pitch shifting, even though the ears might think it is. So but it doesn't mean that you cannot go up in pitch. However, from the original growly tunnel throat, there will be limitations on how bright you can get it. I will show you. So for example, now that was not the false chords. So it is hard for us to say always, oh, that was the false chords, or that wasn't. That can be hard sometimes because everyone's voice is a little bit different. So even though that seemed like, oh, that's obviously the false chords, right? It actually wasn't. I'll show you again. Not false chords. We will talk about it next time, how to reach that type of tone. But the false chords will have limitations on how bright they can go with this specific technique. So even though some out there will say that, oh, it feels like this, it feels like that, that's okay. Or it sounds like that, but that was not the false chords activated there. I'll show you again. False chords. False chords. Again, false chords. Now I'll try to make it even brighter. Not false chords. So you will suddenly have that limitation. Not every sound with the false chords will have this limitation. So do not think that from this sound you're going to make those bright Lorna Shore sounds, for example. No, they need a little bit of a tweaking and another part turned on instead. So I hope that this helped you understand a little bit more about tunnel throat, the original one, and limitations and what you can do. Of course, you can also move your tongue a little bit to the side and do stuff like that. Of course you can. But I do not fully recommend it, but it is up to you if you want to do so. So, see you in the next episode where we talk about some of the other variants of tunnel throat. See you there.